but we were once a leader, and other states, and in fact, the federal government looked to us because the people that were representing our state knew that we sat and we sit in a remarkably responsible place, which is at the heart of the largest body of fresh water in the world.
When I wrote my first book, it's a history of Michigan's conservation and environmental movement, looking back to the 1830s when Michigan became a state. I wanted to find out how we came to be a leader amongst the states and what it was, whether it was institutional or personal. And I found that it was mainly personal. There were a lot of people, visionaries back as early as the 1880s who got very organized and active to try to protect our forests first, and then to attack the pollution problems of the state, and finally to deal with issues of concern to land development. An example would be a woman named Genevieve Gillette, whose name is on the visitor center at Hofmaster Park. Countless hours of her life to advocating for state parks. And because of her, we have 6 or 7 of our crown jewels in the state park system. And as well, she was active in organizing the campaign for Sleeping Bear Dunes. And Sleeping Bear Dunes, by the way, turns 50 in October. She, I think, exemplifies the tradition throughout our state's history and probably in the national history of citizen leadership. There was a governor named Chase Osborn, who happens to be the only governor Michigan's ever had from the Upper Peninsula, who was at one time a game warden and later became governor and championed forestry and fish and game management as priorities. So that was rare in those days.
We have always had heroes on both sides of the aisle. And before we started this conversation today, you and I had an initial exchange about a remarkable woman named Patty Burkholz, a Republican lawmaker from West Michigan, from the Saugatuck area, who was an amazing leader as it pertained to protecting our natural areas. We now have the Patty Burkholz Natural Area named after her. She helped to put the state park into place, the Saugatuck Dunes State Park. The Great Lakes Compact, in large part, was much of her work in a bipartisan fashion.
Everybody refers to Governor William Milliken, who was the longest serving governor of the state. He took a lot of political risks for the environment, at times going against members of his own party, Republican Party, and some of their big donors. So,
on the amazing front, we did things like put together the nation's strongest bottle deposit bill. No other state has a 10-cent deposit, and it's done remarkable things for our state. We may need to expand it, but that's a whole nother story. We also passed the Michigan Environmental Protection Act, which was an amazing step forward for any state. Governor Milliken's tenure, a couple of things happened that were really challenging. We had the PBB crisis, where basically the cows were fed poisons instead of actually their feed. And most of the dairy cows in our state literally became toxic, and their milk became toxic. And those cows had to be disposed of. The thing that he had to deal with was, frankly, that Lake Erie was on its first round of what we would call basically heading towards death of a Great Lake. And it was due to the phosphorus then. It's due to the phosphorus now, but from different sources. And Governor Milliken stepped up, and without the action of the legislature, he took executive authority into his own hands and took action to deal with dishwashing detergent, which was a lead culprit at that point.
Was a great guy. They called him the gentle giant. He was involved in writing and passing some of the most important of our environmental laws. He was the primary force behind our Michigan Environmental Protection Act, which passed also 50 years ago. He was one of the authors of the Wetlands Act. He was a Democrat, but he also worked in harmony with Republican Governor Milliken to get these laws passed.
We had amazing leadership in Governor Milliken, in members in the legislature. I would say that Lana Pollock was one of those people. During her tenure, she worked hard and got passed a polluter pay law, which was then dismantled after she left office, unfortunately, because boy, would we like to have that polluter pay law in place right now as we deal with things like the PFAS contamination in our state.
What I've learned, and going back to my first book and since, when you look at the history, it's always been people who lead the politicians. There seems to be this idea we've been taught from civics class that people are elected to office and they will show the way that we need to follow to protect the environment and any other issue. But the history has been that citizens are the ones who organize and they push the politicians to do the right thing.